Thanks.
All right. So my name is Raul, the realtor. Here we got Claudia and our solar specialist, Seth. We're just going to give it a few more minutes to allow more people to join in, and then we'll get started.
I'm going to post on my social media really quick
Yeah,
to have them hop on.
for sure.
So, oh, wait. 1 second.
Cool. Welcome, Leslie. We're just giving it a few minutes to let everybody else join.
Yes. And then today we do have a mini live crowd, which is nice.
Yeah.
Come on in and make yourselves at home. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was in person.
It's
He's
okay.
like, no, it's Zoom.
I think he's on that side.
Like that. We got some excited folks joining in person.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I think we're good. Or how do you feel? Oh. Should we go for it?
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Out of courtesy for the folks that join on time, we'll get started for y'all. So again, my name is Raul, the realtor here at Lepe Tendwell Properties, part of the Lepe team. Here again, I have our other host, Claudia,
Eve.
another realtor here at the team. And we also have a special guest, which we'll reintroduce in a little bit. But let's go ahead and get started here. I'm just going to share my screen. Perfect. So welcome to our workshop here. Today, we are talking about Solar 101. We're getting down to the basics, and we're going to explore all the pros and the cons when it comes down to acquiring solar for your property. So here are all the friendly faces. You might recognize a lot of these. This is the amazing agents here at the brokerage here at our office. And a special shout out to the agents that took time to invite their peoples to come out and join us as well. Claudia, talk to us about social media.
Yes, if you are not following us on our social medias, please do so. We always post fun, educational, and any events that we're hosting. So you can follow us at the brokerage page, which is the Lepe Tendwell. Also, if you can please share a review on our pages, that helps us reach to the community and get the word out there.
Yeah, it gets the word out there. And it also, your feedback is probably the best feedback out of anybody, right? You guys are here hearing what we have to say. So anything that you feel we can do a little bit better or anything that you enjoyed, we'd love to hear about it. That way we can share it with the rest of the world and just keep improving on these workshops here. So with every other workshop, we're going to go ahead and do a quick little 30-second market update on this real estate here in San Diego. So in terms of inventory, today we're sitting at 2,338 homes. We actually increased 7% since June. And I'm excited when I say increase, because if you've been following real estate for a little while, you know that we don't have enough houses on the market. We should be about 6,800 homes this time of year, but we're at 2,300. So we definitely need more homes on the market. Demand actually went down last month, 1.5%, but don't let that fool you. There still are more buyers than there are houses to go around. Now, when you're looking at market time, this is from when an owner puts a for sale sign on their front lawn. And it's counting the days from the moment that sign goes up to the moment that they get an accepted offer. Right now, that's taking about 22 days, and it actually decreased from 29 days. And that's important because there's no inventory, right? That's the correlation. There's no inventory, so everybody's going to the same properties and scooping them up really quickly. And that's what's causing prices to stay kind of strong as well. Now, when a property's selling about 100 days, that's a neutral market, right? Neither the seller or the buyer really have the leverage in negotiations. When the property's selling under 90 days, it's a seller's market. When it's selling under 60 days, it's a hot seller's market. So we're at 22 days. I'll let you give it the title for that type of market. Now, for all the folks that are waiting for those scorching hot deals on the foreclosures and the short sales, I wouldn't hold your breath. Today, we have about 12 total families who are in trouble, cannot make a payment. And in terms of the new builds, last year we built about 4,000 new houses, and we need to build about 12 to 15,000 on a yearly basis to catch up to this housing shortage. So in short, there's a lot of buyers, but not enough houses. So without further ado, we'd love to introduce our special guest today. This is our solar expert. This guy, Seth, definitely knows his stuff when it comes down to solar, and he's here to give us some guidance. So, Seth, tell us a little bit about yourself.
There you go. I'm muted. Yeah, I'm actually from Santee originally. Long story short, I moved away when I was younger, about 10 years old, kind of all over California, but I spent the longest in Bakersfield, from about 2002 to just a couple of years ago. I was able to move back down to San Diego. So I'm glad to be back here. It's a little cooler. It's about 110 right now in Bakersfield. It's only like 80 down here. You guys are like, oh, it's a scorcher. It's so hot, and it makes me laugh because this is dream weather,
And it's funny you say that, because when you said only 80, I'm like, only?
Yeah. Well, yeah, 80, 90, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been doing solar for about 10 years now. I've worked with some of your larger companies like Vivint, Sunrun. I still am contracted with larger companies like Sunrun, Sun Solar, but I also have a broker outlet that has different channels depending on what the client wants to do. There's some things that Sunrun won't do. So every just like every client that you have, every purchase scenario is unique. So is every solar project, believe it or not. You have sometimes people need to upgrade their they need to change their roof, or they need to put a new panel upgrade to be able to qualify to go solar. It's not always a for sure thing. So we have to have those resources available to be able to get those people in that position.
For sure. And that's where you come in, right? So you'd be able to look at a house and say, hey, man, you might need a new roof, or you might need a new electrical panel, right? So that's why they would need somebody like yourself in their corner. That way you can help guide from A through Z in the process, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It all starts with a site survey. I don't really push sales right off the gate. Some guys like to talk about numbers and try to get people locked into contracts, but I do like my own site survey in advance to see if the house is going to qualify. Just like you guys want to get your buyers pre-qualified before you start showing them houses, right? Same mentality. It's like, let's not put the cart in front of the horse. Let's see how the house looks, and then we go into detail, start looking at their utility bill and their utility provider and kind of educating them on that.
Cool. Good stuff. So let's get started on this. So this is the $1 million question, Seth. We get in this all of the time. Do I need solar? And in short, we have a little definition, and you tell us if you agree with it. But solar, in short, it's taking sunlight and converting it into actual energy that we can actually use. And so, yeah, what are the benefits of having solar? Why is that so popular nowadays?
Well, one of the reasons why, and someone asked me on the chat, I try to respond, but on my website, I have a lot of frequently asked questions too. It's Go Solar Cut Bills. You already put that up there. But so in 2018, Congress passed the California Renewable Energy Act, and this requires new homes built after 2020. They don't have to have solar installed in it, but they have to basically be hardwired and capable to have solar basically just slapped on there. It has to be at least ready to be installed. And in 2022, so this is just last year, Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act. It increased the federal tax credit for solar panels to 30%. But that law also targets 60% of homes to have renewable energy by the year 2030, and commits to 100% zero carbon energy supply by 2045. So you can kind of see the trend. We're in about 20 years, almost 100%. About 100% of the homes are going to actually be required to have solar.
You said by when?
20. Let's see, about 20 years. So by 2045. So 22 years. Yeah. Okay. And you kind of already see the trend, so many Teslas all around, so many electric vehicles. Yeah, but on a client to client basis, the reason why it's so popular is really just the soaring cost of utility by your utility provider, San Diego Gas and Electric. It's really crazy because, you know, San Diego, you know, from Bakersfield, where I come from recently, house prices are like, you can get a decent house for 300,000-400,000, you know, pretty, you know, impossible to find down here.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, really. Of course, there's nothing to do over there, so you know you kind of get what you pay for.
Sure, yeah.
But the energy costs up there. So first of all, we measure unit of energy. It's called a kilowatt hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just like when you go and get your gas for your vehicle, you know, it's you buy a gallon. So what's the price per gallon? $5, $5.25. We're all familiar with that lingo because most of us don't drive electric cars. Most of us fill our cars up with gas. So when it comes to energy consumption, it's measured in a kilowatt hour basis. And so if you ask yourself, or if you ask some of your clients, do you know about how much you pay per kilowatt hour? And most people don't know. You have to pull out their utility bill and show them and things like that. But in the Central Valley and most of California, PG&E, they're the dominant utility provider. They charge about 52 cents per kilowatt hour on average. San Diego Gas and Electric charges about 82 cents per kilowatt hour. And so what that translates out to in simple terms, in like a financial basis, let's figure in a summer month like we're having right now in July, most homes will use about 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy to power the ACs and everything else. Well, 1,000 kilowatt hours times 52 cents, you know, anywhere else would be a $520 electric bill. But here in San Diego, that same usage, that would be $820 electric bill, right?
Gotcha.
Because it's the price that you're paying per unit of energy is so higher.
That's what I'm scared of. I've been running my AC and I'm like, I don't want to see that bill.
Right. And the price per gas as well has gone up tremendously. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember on the news about 6 months ago. And that's when I moved into this place over here where I'm at up by Mount Helix, and I had to get a new washer and dryer. And I thought, oh, I'll go buy a gas dryer because gas has always been the more affordable alternative to electricity. That same month, I don't know if you remember, the price of gas, natural gas, just skyrocketed, and it was all over the news. People were like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. My gas bill's $300. It used to be $100.
Yeah.
And so that combined with it is it's putting a lot of pressure on people, and people are starting to feel it. You'll probably hear it more from your clients these summer months because they're gonna start seeing those higher energy bills than they did last year. Last year, SDG&E, to put in perspective, it was about 39 cents per kilowatt hour.
Oh, wow.
So you'll see along with your clients, they're like, yeah, I had a $200 electric bill every month, you know, average last summer. And you'll see, and you'll hear it going from 200 to 400 if it hasn't already. So, so really, you know, we were talking earlier just about like drama and scary stories and like situations that can happen. And sometimes, you know, we come across that where clients say, well, my friend was going to get solar and this happened, or my friend got solar and the company went out of business, and so people they hear that and then they just, well, you know what, I'm just not going to do anything then. That's the safest thing because then I don't have anything to worry about. But honestly, just the scariest thing is staying where you're at, usually with the utility provider, because not only is the cost more than 3 times as much than having solar, but the trend is that what they do historically and for the future, you'll see them increasing their prices by about 18% every year.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this isn't just something that we saw, oh, it went from this last year to this now. You know, you'll see that also on the news, they showed SDG&E, they have a 4-year goal, and that's to average about $350 million of new revenue each year, starting this year, 2022. 23, 24, 25, and 26. That's their goal. And so it's going to be more popular because of all these reasons.
Because it's going to get more expensive, it sounds like. So it sounds like it's not just a one-off, right? So you might hear it in the news once, but it's going to keep happening right? Whether or not you're hearing about it in the news. And it sounds
Right.
like one of the benefits of having solar is you're able to combat that, I guess, inflation of your
Right.
electrical bill with
Exactly.
having a very stable,
Exactly.
fixed payment for your solar then, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you
Gotcha.
take control of
Yeah.
your bill.
Exactly.
And I love what you said too. You know, the fear shouldn't be, oh, you know, am I getting into the wrong product or whatever it is? You know, you got to do your due diligence anyways with whatever you do. But the biggest fear is staying stagnant, not moving, not going in any direction, just staying there, right? So
Right.
I think that speaks volumes to everybody who's on this call right now. But
Mhm.
you know, one thing that you mentioned that really caught my eye was you were talking about, you know, some pretty horror stories. And, you know, I think we hear them all of the time, right? There's horror stories with just about anything that you do. It doesn't matter. You want to buy some shoes, you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house. Somebody's got a bad story to tell you, right? So
Yeah.
we're here to talk also about some common mistakes. Claudia, talk to us.
Yes. So top 3 most common solar mistakes. Number 1 is, I'm going to change it. Oh, number 1 is not knowing your home energy usage. So you kind of talked about that, Seth. So how is this determined?
That's probably one of the most common ones where they'll say, well, my friend got solar, and at the end of the year, they had what's called the true up bill. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard about that. What a true up bill is basically and it's not the end of the calendar year, it's the end of your solar anniversary year. So if you got solar this month in July, right? Prior to things changing in April, not to be confusing, I'll explain, but in the past, if you got solar in July, then what'll happen is that for that whole 12-month period, at the end of that 12-month period, so next July, the utility company is going to reconcile and they're going to look at the total 12-month, what you consumed and versus what you used. And so this is after you've had solar installed, right? So you have solar installed. At the end of that 12-month period, let's say your system produced 10,000 kilowatt hours, but you used 12,000 kilowatt hours. Well, you used more energy than your system produced, right? So you're negative, you're in the deficit by $2,000. So you need to buy that $2,000 kilowatt hours from the utility company at their rate. That's a true up bill. So that's what people say, oh man, my friend got solar and they still had to pay PG&E. Well, that's why they didn't build their system big enough for their amount of consumption, or they didn't continue with the habits they had before they got the solar. So people think that once they get solar, it's free energy. So let's just go crazy and crank the AC down to 68 degrees, when in the past we've always had it at 78 degrees in the summer. No. Don't change your habits. You want to live the same way that you've been living. Or let's say you got an electric vehicle last month and you didn't have one prior. Well, that's an additional consumption that you didn't sort of take and put in perspective when you built your system. But to answer your question, Claudia, what we do is we first sit down and we look at someone's 12 months of usage. That's how we determine what size system they're going to need. So we'll look back and we'll say, okay, let's look at your last 12 months. Last 12 months, you used 10,000 kilowatt hours. So it would make sense to build a system that's going to produce at least that amount of output, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to try to save money and build a smaller system because you're just going to end up having a true up bill. You don't want to do that.
I have a question. Oh, go
Yeah.
for it. I'll let you finish.
Oh no. So historically, what we would kind of do is we would overbuild the system maybe by 10 or 20%, or if someone was going to get an electric vehicle, we'd overbuild the system by like an additional 50%, so that there was that cushion, right? That's sort of what we would do to avoid people from having that true up bill at the end of the year.
And you do
So
that right off the bat. So once you identify the usage, you just bump it by 10, maybe 20%.
yeah, that's usually like a safe cushion, 10, 20%. Nowadays, you don't really want to go too much beyond that, because things changed April 14th of this year. I don't know. Has anyone, by show of hands, heard of NEM or net metering 3.0? Has anyone heard of that?
Yeah, I heard of that. And
Yeah.
also I have a question for you because I bought a property just during that time. And it had already solar system.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna get that notice at the end of the fiscal year, solar year for that solar panel that somebody else bought and
Right.
else used in a different manner, way. So I might get a surprise. I need to check how's my usage in the last 3 months that I've been living here, right?
Right. Yeah, and you should be able to do that when you bought the home and the solar, whether it was a lease or a purchase, that agreement should have been transferred over to you, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, they give me. I have to create a new app where I log into the system and I start to check the usage in the last 3 months.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but at least in there, what you'll do is you'll be able to see the system size. You'll know if you didn't already before you bought the house, you should be able to see like, what size system do I have? Do I have one that produces 6,800 kilowatt hours? Because that previous homeowner, they built a system for their usage. And so if it was just a single, like a bachelor guy, guy by himself, and he built a small system, and you're moving in with a family of 5, or vice versa, right? Let's say
It is that's the case. It was a couple of old folks, and now we are 4 in the new house.
okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you can monitor it. And if you want to text me or something, I can show you how to monitor it on the utility company's website. So you won't be surprised. But since they bought the system prior to April of this year, it sounds like the system has already been grandfathered into net metering 2.0. So you should be okay. Worst case, if you use too much energy, then yeah, you might see a true up bill. But so the way things have changed moving forward, just to try to encapsulate what changed as easy as possible, because this could be like a whole nother meeting, and I don't want to confuse you guys, but it is sort of important to have a little bit of relevant information. So when your clients ask you, hey, what's net metering 3.0, you have at least a little bit to roll off the bat, and talk, and not just be like, I have no idea. Not that you have to be a solar expert, of course, but obviously when you talk to people about home loans, then they ask you what the rates are like, you can say, I don't know, it depends on your credit. You need to talk to a lender, but I've seen them anywhere between 5.5 to 6.5. You don't want to just be like, I don't know, get pre-qualified, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I'll go ahead.
No, and I think Vanessa on the chat had a good follow-up question to this question, that let's say there is a life event that requires more usage. Can you modify your system?
Yeah, you can always add on. Since net metering 3.0 went into an effect April of this year, we're having to implement battery storage usage, because essentially what happened was the California Public Utility Commission, they agreed to allow the utility companies, SoCal Edison, SDG&E, PG&E, they agreed to let them pass a law that says the utility company, you don't have to credit people that have solar 100% of the energy that their panels produce to be sent to the grid, like a 1-for-1 ratio. It used to be if let's say this July month, your panels produced 1,000 kilowatt hours and you used 1,000 kilowatt hours, it was a direct, you got to use 100% of what your system produced. Well, after April 14th, what happened is they're saying, hey, you only have to credit the customer, the homeowner, 30% of the energy that their panels produce. So if I produce 1,000 kilowatt hours, I'm kind of like, I can only use 300 of those 1,000. So what about those other 700? So that's why we need to have battery storage in place, so that during time of use, because right now as we speak, between 4 to 9 p.m., that's the most expensive time to be using electricity, because the regular rate is about 60 cents a kilowatt hour. But this period when people are home and they're cleaning, they're cooking, they're making dinner, they're doing laundry, they're running the dishwasher, they're running the AC because they're home from work. That's the peak time. That's when they charge you more. So
And
what
does happen? Oh, sorry, what does happen to the 700?
So what we do is that excess energy when
It's
you have a
producing?
battery, yeah, you're getting excess energy that's being stored onto that battery, so that during those time of use periods between 4 to 9 p.m., instead of pulling from the grid, you're pulling from your battery. So
if for example, that we're talking about the system, I bought a house with the electrical panels already, and I can add the battery and I can still get a discount from the government, or that's done? Like,
If you're in the position where you need to add panels and add a battery or whatever, and you purchase the equipment, that's where you'll be eligible for the federal tax credit of
Okay.
30%, whatever it all comes out to. So if you get batteries and panels and it's 20 grand or 30 grand, just that times 30%, that's what your tax credit would be. If you choose to lease the equipment, you're not eligible for the tax credit. You have to purchase it with a loan.
So do you have a price for like a battery system? Like how much extra is compared to the panels, like the regular 4-bedroom house or 3-bedroom house with 4 people living on the house, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Typically, I'd have to look and see what size system you have or what size system you're going to want to change it to. But usually we want to run one 10 kilowatt battery for every 4,000 kilowatt hour that your system produces. So I could look at your situation and say, hey, you just need one battery. You should be cool with that. They're anywhere between $10,000 to $13,000. Or if you need 2, we'll look at that. So, and that's the first thing I look at. I mean, if people are eligible to, because you have to be eligible to receive the tax credit. It's not just, you have to have the tax appetite to be able to get the money, because the federal government won't let you get any more money back on your federal tax return than you paid into it. So
Makes sense.
so we could talk a little about more of that some other time, but yeah, so that's essentially, so anyone that's getting solar right now, the main thing is, you need to get panels, you need to get battery usage to stay off the grid. And there is no more true up bill. So there is no more at the end of your solar anniversary date, they'll reconcile everything and see if you used more or less.
There's no more of that?
There's no more of that. It's a net billing tariff. So every month, the utility company reconciles how much energy your system produced versus how much you consumed. And if you're short, they want that money now, not a year from now, right? So if your system produced 500 kilowatt hours and you use 700 kilowatt hours, then on your next bill, you're gonna have to purchase those 200 kilowatt hours from the utility
So
company.
it gets handled monthly, not annually, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
I
and then
kinda
maybe I
like
missed
that.
it.
So
Maybe I missed it. I just wanted to clarify real quick. So back to Vanessa's questions, where if there's a life event and you need to modify your system, it sounds like you can add equipment, but to
Add
take
battery.
off equipment is going to get tough. Is that it?
Yeah, typically, I mean, that's why it's really important when you're building the system, you don't want to overbuild it.
Right.
It's not going to do you any good anymore to overbuild your system. It would do you better to actually produce more battery storage. So in the past, so that's what you did. You had people building a system at 110% offset. Then you had some people saying, well, I might get an electric vehicle and I might do this and that.
Right.
And so I'm going to build it at 150 or 160% offset, that much bigger than what I'm producing. But you don't really see that anymore because it's not the size system that matters anymore. It's how much battery storage you have in place to be able to stay off the grid the time that you're but yeah, and it depends, like if you have an electric vehicle, then so there's battery storage that we put to just help you stay off their grid, and then there's other types of batteries that we could implement that actually powers your home, electric vehicles and all that stuff in case of a blackout. Otherwise, it won't. If you have a blackout, it won't.
All right. And before we get into the next common mistake, there's one quick question, if you can address it real quick. Is it financially beneficial for someone to buy a battery if you're on NEM 2.0? NEM 2.0.
Yeah. Well, so there's no more NEM 2.0, so it's NEM 3.0. That's what we're in, net metering 3.0. That's the stage that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So not only is it beneficial,
Sorry.
I mean, it's pretty.
I'm asking. Sorry, I was asking because I currently have a system, so I was grandfathered into NEM 2.0. So that's why I'm asking to see if it would be beneficial for somebody that's already on the system or was grandfathered in to then also go in and buy a battery to store the energy.
Yeah, honestly, you don't really need to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're short, like since you're on 2.0, if you're getting a true up bill, like like this year you're gonna get a $500 or $1,000 true-up bill, then you would want to probably add a few panels and add a small battery.
Okay.
Yeah, that would definitely benefit you.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you for
Awesome.
that.
Thank you
Thank you.
Thanks for asking, Leslie.
Yeah, no, and
Number
great
two.
questions too. So if everybody
Yeah.
has questions, throw them in the chat, unmute yourself. This is good conversation. So,
Right.
Claudia, what is the next common mistake that we're seeing from folks trying to acquire solar?
Number two, going for the cheapest bundle. You know, it's going cheap, the route to go, or, you know, what do you get for going cheap?
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants the best deal, right? Everyone, there's a ton of solar companies in San Diego for sure. You can go to a home and I just already talked to 2-3 different people and I'm going to go for the lowest. So what I would concentrate on, and I would look for, I would start asking them, what type of equipment are you looking to purchase? Because not all vehicles are created equal, right?
Right.
It's just like, should I buy a Hyundai or should I get a 2002 Volkswagen or like a Mercedes? Like, so because technology, I mean, it moves so quickly, things now in 10 years, they'll be obsolete. Just like you want to be with a solar company that's been around for at least 10 years. Sunrun's been around for 17 years. I have other install partners that have been around for over 10 years. This may be indirectly answering that question, but you may have a competitor that's offering a lower price for the equipment because they are new and they don't have that name recognition. And if they've been around for a year or two, I would be careful and I would be cautious about that. And I would look at the equipment, start asking around, get other quotes, talk to other people. And, the top of the line equipment that you're going to hear are things like Enphase, Solar Edge inverters. Sorry, my dog's sneezing in the background.
Oh.
If they start naming off stuff that you're not sure of, you never heard of that equipment, it's probably cheap equipment and it's not that reliable. So yeah, you do get what you pay for. Ask them what the warranty is. If they're going to offer you a 10-year warranty, let's look at other. Oh, there you go. You're already talking.
And that's our next most common, not understanding the maintenance and the repair warranties. Does home insurance cover solar panels? Your regular like home insurance that we pay for already? Is that like do you know? I just thought of that when I was preparing, but I was just like, I wonder if there's now, like car insurance, like you can add additional coverage.
And I do actually have a company that offers additional homeowners insurance. I'm not sure if they would, to be honest with you, because I've always looked at what the solar company provides. You'll have what's called a manufacturer warranty and a workmanship warranty. So I guess the best way to compare it would be when you buy a vehicle and you get like a bumper to bumper warranty versus just a powertrain warranty, right? So there's the equipment and then there's everything else. So in solar, you'll typically see like a 10-year workmanship warranty. So that'll cover like any work, any holes that they drilled, mounting your equipment if something falls off, or any the roof penetration.
For like the labor part of it, right?
Yeah, that's typically like in your workmanship warranty. Because if it's gonna leak, it's gonna leak within 10 years, right? It's not gonna whatever. But the equipment itself will typically have a 25-year warranty. So if you're signing a 25-year lease or you're getting a 25-year loan for the product, that equipment's going to be covered the whole life of the loan or the purchase.
Gotcha.
So you don't need an additional warranty though.
So real quick, when it comes down to solar, even if your home insurance may potentially cover it, I think it's recommendable to always contact your solar professional to try to make sure if a warranty on that end can cover it as well, right? And because not every claim makes sense for home insurance as well. So definitely recommend going through your rep and just kind of running your scenario through them. Or if you don't have a rep for your solar, call your favorite Lepe Tendwell agent and we'll get you connected with Seth or whatever solar professional you feel comfortable with to help you assess your situation, to make sure that you're taking the proper steps to be able to get that whatever issue fixed. Right now, real quick, Claudia and the team, they're going to throw into the chat a link where you guys can register to our newsletter. That way, once a month, you'll receive a newsletter from us. You'll stay updated with the real estate market and as well as future events and workshops that we will be hosting. So if you want to stay in the know for future events, definitely register and throw your email in the chat as well. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you, Seth, is talking about warranties. Right before that, you mentioned that there's a lot of little companies that if they don't have a big name, one thing that they do is they discount their prices heavily to just get you to go with them. Right now, not every company is going to make it. What if somebody decides to go with the cheapest one with this no-name company, and maybe 5 years later, they shut their doors down and now you need something with your warranty, or you need to contact them for some sort of maintenance or servicing? What happens at that type of scenario when the company you purchased your solar from shuts their doors down?
Yeah, that's a good one, because unfortunately, I mean, I have seen that and I've heard of it. People have called me. I got solar installed and it's not even working. What do I do? And the company skipped town. They filed bankruptcy. It's really hard to go after the company if they've already filed bankruptcy, obviously. But what I would do is I would direct them to at least their equipment information and contracts. So if it's not not the panels that like the brain of the solar system is your inverter, your solar inverter. It's on the side of the house, that big metal box. And every inverter, it should have a website where you can go and you could track the performance of it. So if it's Solar Edge, Enphase, all those are inverter companies. We could contact them and say, hey, I want to make sure that my system's operating. I mean, if they're not already logged in on the website to view it, then we can get that set up. If they don't know who their inverter is, then that's going to be sticky. We could see if like our servicing end of our company can actually take it over and try to adopt it, so to speak.
Got it.
And try to serve it and get it hooked up and running.
Okay, so it sounds like at that point you just got to go through like almost the manufacturer of that inverter to try to get some help. And if you can help clarify this part too, just because the solar company shut their doors down, the people financing your solar doesn't mean they shut their doors down, right? So you still got to keep paying, so keep doing your thing, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you're still on the hook with the finance company, whether it's a lease, whether it's Everbright, Sonova Financing, all these different finance companies that are basically, they're solar banks. They don't do mortgage loans or anything. They're banks specifically made for solar loans. They're going to want to continue to draft your account every month for that monthly payment, regardless of how your system's performing, if it's working at all. So yeah, all this stuff is really important prior to getting your system. The best defense is the best offense is having a good defense and making sure that you could try to avoid the risk of getting in that position to begin with.
So talk to me, man. How do we avoid that risk? How do we choose the right company? Company obviously matters. How do I know if it's a good one?
Really, you need to do your own diligence, ask basic questions. How long have you been in business? How long have you yourself been selling solar? It doesn't require, there is a license that we as solar reps, we have to have. It's a HIS license. It's basically just a background check, making sure that we can be in someone's home, that, we're not an offender, we're not, criminal and things. So, it's not too difficult to be licensed to be a solar rep. So you do have a lot of young, I don't say young, I don't want to target age, but you do have a lot of inexperienced, I guess you could say, people jumping in the industry to try to make a quick buck. So I would ask the rep, how long have you yourself been selling solar, and how long has your company been in business? And then don't just go off of what they say, look it up. If you have someone that says, oh, I've been doing this for 6 months and I'm not sure how long my company's been around, I think, then I would be careful about that. If someone says, yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years, 10 years, my company's been around for 10 years, or I own my own company, I would just do your own research.
All right, cool.
Makes
So
sense.
ask a lot of questions, right? Ask a lot of questions and don't just take it at face value. Double check the answers, So that's good. Asking questions. And then, so the next question that we get a lot is, does it make more sense to purchase, or should we lease a system? So, what is the difference when you lease and purchase a system, a lot of people think it's kind of the same thing, but obviously there's got to be some changes, right? Or some differences.
Yeah, there's some differences.
Yeah, and like which option is more expensive? When it comes to maintenance, does the borrower, I guess, on a purchase take on more responsibility than the person leasing? How does all that fun
Right.
stuff work?
Yeah, so when it between leasing and purchasing, I just mentioned briefly earlier that the biggest advantage to purchasing is that would entitle you to the tax credit, right?
Got it.
And again, it's 30% of the total project cost. So if you end up getting a roof that's 20 grand and your panels are 30 grand, you get 30% of that 50 grand. That's a lot of money, potentially. So, but you have to have the tax appetite. So let's say you're a real estate agent and you file a Schedule C, and so you may have grossed $180,000 for the year, but you're like, oh man, I think I had like 150,000 of expenses, so right, because the more expenses that you have, it lowers your tax liability.
Right.
Then you only really made 30 grand. So if you end up having to pay taxes at the end of the year because you don't make estimated tax payments every quarter, which most of us don't, you're probably not going to get a federal tax return. And if you're not in the position where you're already you're getting a federal tax return, you're not going to get a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 tax refund, right? Now it could still offset your tax liability. So let's say you're a real estate agent and you're like, man, I don't make any estimated tax payments throughout the year. I don't have extra money for that. And man, every February, March, I got to pay like $20,000 to the IRS. That's what I got to do. Okay, well, if this year you get solar and you're potentially getting the federal tax credit amount is $20,000, then that could potentially absorb your tax liability. So that year you could not have to pay that 20 grand, right?
Gotcha.
So you won't get a refund, but you won't have to pay the IRS that amount.
And that's on a purchase, right? You get those benefits on a purchase, not a lease.
On a purchase, yeah, getting a loan.
Got it. Okay.
There's really no like which one's cheaper, which one's better. A lot of times they are kind of like side by side. The advantage to getting a lease that I like is that leases are a little bit more popular right now, only because since we're having to have that battery implementation.
Yeah. Now
batteries, as you know, when you get like an iPhone, you ever notice like 7-8 years down the road, the battery is just going like super quick. Yep. Like you wake up and you're by 10 o'clock in the morning, your phone has like 50%, right? And then when you get a new iPhone, that battery is good like all day. At the end of the day, it's like at 80%.
Oh yeah.
Well, batteries tend to degrade over time pretty quick. So if you have a lease, let's say you sign a 25-year lease, well, in 10 years, if that battery's not performing at optimal levels, they'll just come in and replace it for you. And then if in another 10 years, that second battery is not doing so well, we'll come in and replace it at no additional cost. Versus if it's a purchase and you buy the equipment and the battery starts to, degenerate, they're typically, they're not going to just say, oh, okay, here's a free battery,
Okay, so it sounds like, sorry, go ahead.
But and then, okay, let's say I purchase it. Is that something that a warranty can cover me if I go with the purchase and that's how my battery will be replaced, or it's just a lease item that gets covered?
Typically, most of the time it's a lease. It would have to be the final. There is Sonova, actually, they do on a purchase, they do
cover that
battery replacement. Yeah. So that's important too,
Who does?
Sonova financing. So if you're going down that path and it's not me, if you're talking to someone else, that's perfectly fine. That's something that you'd want to ask. Hey, I remember I heard in a meeting that the guy mentioned that typically on leases, it includes free battery replacement, but I'm looking at a purchase because I want that tax credit. Is this with this product, with this company, am I entitled to getting that? And then they should be able to tell you yes or no. But most importantly, like you guys advise your clients, read your contract, right?
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like the biggest differences between a purchase and a lease is On a purchase, you're owning the equipment. So as an owner, you're holding more liability with the equipment. And at that point, if something were to go wrong, you're banking on the warranty to take care of it. Now, on a lease, you're not owning the equipment, right? It's kind of like you're renting it. So at
Right.
that point, the company has more financial interest to be able to help you out with that equipment to make sure that it's running at an optimal level, right?
Right.
And so, there's pros and cons to each
Yeah.
one. And it sounds like if you really want to take advantage of that tax credit, would you say that it makes sense to talk to your CPA to see how that would fit based on the build that you're suggesting to acquire?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I mean, don't go that tax scenario that I just threw out. Don't run with that, and because I'm not a
Oh, I'm
qualified.
quoting you word for word, Seth.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, talk to, because tax laws change every year too, and so your situation might change.
Right.
Even if you used to have to pay taxes at the end of the year, you may have had kids, you may this or that, whatever. So yeah,
All right,
really, like I
cool.
said, yeah, it just depends on the person and what they're looking for.
Then I think I'm gonna lease.
Yeah, Lisa's cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that decision is a little premature, Claudia. I think that you need to have a professional like Seth assess your situation and really advise, right? I mean,
I know.
we started off by saying we want to educate ourselves, but yeah, if you don't want that liability, at least sounds right for sure. But I mean, we covered a lot today. I know I for sure learned a thing or two about solar. And Seth, thank you so much for your time today for putting us up on all this free game over here, man. But I wanted to open it up to the floor as well to the rest of the audience. I know Claudia and I have been drilling you with questions. What questions do you guys have out here at the audience? Feel free to just throw it in the chat, or if you want to just unmute yourself, you got full access to our solar specialist here. I don't know if there's any other remaining questions.
I do. I actually have one, so
Cool.
I'll go for it.
Go
And
for
then,
it.
what about the investors that own properties? Do they have do they get any tax benefits on that if they have a couple rentals that they throw some solar on?
That's a sticky one because they ask if like you occupy the property, So I mean, we're not the tax police or anything. Whatever they say is what they say on the application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but typically, I mean, I had a guy, actually, the guy that I was renting my house from in La Mesa before I moved over here. He had to move back in or whatever, and I was trying to convince him to get solar while I still lived in there, so I can have some relief. But he's just dragging his feet. But then he wanted it as soon as I moved out, and so yeah, he like signed the contract when I was still renting it, but he moved back in. So yeah, that's typical. Is that
So
but the tax credit you can only get like once. You can't get it on like multiple properties. You can't get like 30%. I believe it's just like one time for the year.
Oh, so if I buy a property this year and I get the tax credit, and 5 years later I buy another property, get solar, I can't get that tax credit no more.
Yeah, I don't think so. You want to check with that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then Abe, I think you had a question.
yeah, so I have encountered a lot of projects where there are solar panels on the roof and we need to remodel the place, or we need to, do something. And they charge like a lot of money for the owners to move the panels, do the remodel, and put the back in. And if we touch them, all guarantees are like voided. So is there any way you can go around, removing the panels for a remodel, or do something, replace the roof or whatever, without getting charged so much, like before the contract, or how?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is if the solar company, if they're aware, like if you're having the roof contractor remove the panels and put them back on, then you're taking a risk of having your warranty voided, right? Because they're not the company that's warranting them, so they could just jeopardize that. Yeah, it really just depends on the installer, the servicer, whoever put those panels up, whatever they say that they would charge to temporarily remove them so you could change your roof out and then reinstall them. I mean, you could try other companies, but yeah, it's just, you have to be careful, because if word gets back to the company that's holding your warranty, they could
just
void
void
that.
it. So there's really no run around. It's go through the company, or take a risk. right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be that much. I mean, I've seen it like around $1,000 to $2,000 to do that.
Is that what you're seeing, Abe?
No, I've seen a friend of mine, she bought a new house, installed the solar panels, and basically like 3 months after that, she got the news she was pregnant. So she wanted to add another bedroom. And if we wanted to remove the panels to do that addition, they were charging her like almost $7,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty exorbitant.
Question, Seth.
Hmm?
How would the solar company know? I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I guess I'm asking you, is like if you pull permits, or like is that when the red flag goes off, or they get dinged, or like how do they get notified?
They really, honestly, I don't think they would get notified. You could probably find a company to do it, and because I mean, you're shutting off power, you're shutting off your inverter for a minute, until you do that. So your system is not going to be, but they're not like checking the inverter company and be like, hey, what's up with this house? Why was the solar shut off for a week? They're
Yeah.
not going to investigate it, so they're probably not going to know. To be honest with you, it's just like,
So
if
there's nothing that really triggers it. It's just a risk
Yeah.
if they happen to find
mean,
out.
if you brought it up and you kind of shot yourself in the foot, if you were like, hey, my system's not working, and they're like, well, what happened? Did anything change? And you're like, yeah, we had this company take it off and put it back on because I had to get a roof. Like if you sort of like put it on yourself and
Mhm.
were dumb enough to like confess to them that you had someone else do it,
Over
that could,
disclose.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
All
just want to play stupid, like, I don't know, it's just whatever. But they could be like, well, hey, this is a different roof than we,
So,
they'll go back to their documents and their photos and stuff, and they'll be like, well, you had a gray composition tile roof before, when we put the panels on, and now you have a red tile roof, like, something like that. If it's a different product
Gotcha.
that's
I mean,
visibly
they have the
noticeable.
same contractors to do that. But another question, what is the lifespan of a solar panel? Like I've seen that some of them were the new ones are more powerful than the old ones. When do you know you need to replace the solar panels?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, you can see, there's a rating. I can send out a link. There's a rating that you can see how much they'll degenerate like per year, and it's so small. And so many of the companies are like neck to neck. It's like 1% per year. It's really small. But I don't know. I haven't really seen. I haven't seen anyone say, "Hey, I got panels 20 years ago, and now I need to replace them because they're not working." But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's almost like a roof. If you get a 25-year lease or a 25-year purchase, and you have the panels up there for 25 years, more than likely after those 25 years, 30 years, just like the life of a roof is typically good for 30 years. I mean, you could potentially be in the position where you might be having to look at a new system at that time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had a question. It was going to be my last question. Darn it. Okay, so I have seen a lot of more companies that do solar cleaning.
Yeah.
Is that good for maintenance as far as like having someone come out to your house, and it looked like they power wash the panels. Is that good maintenance on it?
It helps. Yeah, it helps them run a little bit more efficient. Just like when you change out your air filters for your AC units in your home, it helps it run more efficiently, helps you save energy. Yeah, so I would probably look at maybe getting that done maybe every couple years. We do have an install company called Solar Maintenance Pros, and you can actually build that into the price of the system, and they'll basically clean it like every year for the whole duration of the contract, like for 25 years. Some people like that, and it's not even that much money.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
you do want to be careful with that too. You want to make sure that they're not out there pressure washing them on a hot day, like right now, like a 90 degree, because what could happen is they could crack the panel.
Yeah.
So there's a certain way and a certain time of the day and a certain temperature and stuff that you have to stay within to not actually damage the equipment.
This
So
is
before you
great.
get your solar panels power washed, make sure that the company doing it understands the maintenance required to do that. So that way you're not jeopardizing the integrity of your solar panels and the
Right.
production of your solar as well. So
Yeah.
no, these were really good questions from everybody. I appreciate everybody's participation today. What questions does everybody else have? I want to open it up to the audience too.
I think there's
I had a question about once you do have to replace the solar panels, then are you still grandfathered into what is it called? What'd you guys call it again? The metering 3.1.
2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind too, that, like whatever solar company, they're gonna deliver a minimum production guarantee for the life of those 25 years. So you shouldn't be in the position where like on year 17 or on year 22, you're like, oh man, so they should actually warranty that, and they should cover it. So if it's not producing for some reason, they should come out there and put new panels on to be able to continue with that production guarantee that they're putting in that contract that you originally signed. I was just saying, like, after that contract's up, like after the 25 years, let's say year 27 or year 30, and it starts like going south and not producing, of course, it's not going to be under warranty anymore because that warranty is expired. At that time, I mean, yeah, it would be like buying a brand new car. It's like starting over from scratch. So you're looking at whatever the costs are in 30 years of what solar equipment is. Net metering 3.0, by then we'll probably be like on net metering 20.0. You know what I mean? Because I mean, things are going to be passing probably every couple years. But the most important thing that we need to look at, again, and I can send you calculations that would blow your mind, but going back to the utility company, what they were just charging last year and what they're charging this year and what they're projected to increase to charge every single year, 18%, 18%. I mean, not doing solar, what that could cost someone. Let's just say you didn't get solar. You bought this home with me today. Thank you so much. Thank you for using me as your realtor. Congratulations. Let's say you never got solar, and in 25 years you just kept paying the utility company, and you do those calculations over the course of 25 years, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, just, no tax benefit, nothing. And they're basically under that utility company's thumb versus the amount of money that they could have saved within that period. Even if you did have to start over from scratch in 25 years or on year 26, even if you did have to start over and buy a whole brand new system that's going to be 5 times as much because inflation at that time, you know what I mean? Solar panels in 25 years are probably going to cost $100 grand. They're not going to be 20 or 30 grand, right? That amount that person saved within those first 25 years is just insane. So it is good though. I mean, that those are all good questions. You definitely want to say, well, what does the future hold? What if this? What if that? But we definitely got to look at, how things can be effective and put you in a position as safe. I mean, I get people that have bills that are like $900, $1,000, $1,500 a month.
A month?
Yeah.
No thanks.
And you get them from that into like $150 to $300 a month average bill. That's pretty big, saving someone $700 a month. I mean, damn, that's, over 7,000 a year.
That's
Take that.
allocation.
Tell you
10
what, I
years.
actually have one of my good clients. He's paying $3,000 a month
Yeah.
on his electrical bill,
Are
and
you a friend?
he's complaining to me, and I'm like, dude, why don't you get solar? He goes, no, solar's so expensive. It's going to be X amount of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, check it out. Say your payment's $500. You're saving $2,500 a month. What can you do with $2,500 a month?
Trust me, man.
Just
Trust
a
me.
no-brainer.
To me,
It's a no-brainer. Yeah, it's
to
crazy.
me, I almost feel like it's not so much that it's expensive, is I don't want the responsibility of another like equipment in my home. That's what I've been on the fence on solar, to be honest. But because now that I'm more involved in real estate and I've learned so much that I know that the technology and the home market, it's gonna, like you said, in 2045, everyone is going to be solar, like
Mhm.
everything. And even seeing the new builds, it requires a certain amount of solar panels, everything is going electric as far as like stoves and everything that we see getting built. So
Yeah.
I know I have to change it, but like you said, like, or we talked about, you know, we need to be educated, we need to do our homework, we need to find out what is the best packet or, you know,
Solution.
contract for us, but definitely
Yeah.
take control of that, take control. And like something Voltaire will say is, you know, it's just like if they had a contract for us to sign the gas prices at the price right now, like would we lock it in at what it is now, than to, you know, play dice and see what gas prices go up to.
Yeah, lock in today's gas price for 30 years. Gas price never goes up. You just stick with this price. Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
So
That's a deal.
Right.
it's,
Well, I think honestly, a lot of people like you're talking about, Raul, your guy that's paying just through the roof, you know, I think a lot of people, we're just creatures of habit, and we want to stay in that comfort stage no matter how much it costs us. We're so afraid of doing something different. And Claudia, like you mentioned, I'm just afraid. That's the word I'm afraid of being responsible. And what if things go south? And what if I had a bad experience?
yeah, I just don't
so
want like another
knowing-
like breaking down and something else I have to pay for maintenance.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's just the fear, right? The fear
I
of
already
making a
got
move
termites.
and by not
yeah.
and to overcome that fear and not stay stagnant, you got to get educated, right? So this workshop is step number 1. Step number 2 is going to be calling your solar professional to assess your personal situation.
I'll definitely,
and then going.
I am going to look further into it.
What's up, babe?
You build a house off the grid?
Can you build a house off the grid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a SDG&E or SoCal Edison customer. I mean, if you have kerosene, or if you have a propane or whatever for your gas, for your heating, you can do that. You can install solar and get electricity without having to go through the utility company. It's just if you want to use that utility company and you want to be hooked up with SDG&E or whatever, then unfortunately, they're going to be that gatekeeper, and they're going to be the one that says, hey, yeah, you can get solar, you can do this, you can do that, but you got to go through us, and we're going to determine how much of those kilowatt hours that you're producing that will allow you to use. So that's, you know, nobody's saying that you have to be a customer of theirs. You could be, you can live up in a cabin and be remote and self-sufficient or whatever, you know, and no one says you can't do that.
You're living in the city, they will not allow you a permit for solar panels unless you're hooked to SDG&E, right?
I don't think so. I mean, you don't have to have a solar company that's licensed to qualify to get permits, I don't believe. I mean, I've seen electricians, you know, that know a thing or two about solar that actually are able to install it themselves. You know what I mean? It's just your average person can't figure that out, can't do it. I mean, you can employ an electrician to probably get a permit. That permit doesn't have to be requested by a professional solar company, or, you know, it could be through an electrician or contractor or whatever. So it's just not that common. You don't.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's so simple. I have my house up in Bakersfield that I left, you know, I turned it into an Airbnb. I moved down here and I got a ton of panels up there. And my bill yesterday, I just paid my PG&E bill. It was $19. And I got that.
Not bad.
I got 2 AC units and a pool. I got an upstairs and a downstairs. I'm running the pool. I got people, and what do people go when they're renting your house? Where do they want to keep the AC at? Freezing.
Yep.
Let's crank this down to 50 degrees, 60 degrees. That thing is running all the time. My bill here in San Diego, SDG&E bill, like I said, was $511. $19.
Man, I think there was another question.
Yeah, one more. Or
that
somebody else.
Yours.
Okay, go, Jen.
Jen, I think it was you.
Yeah, I have 2 quick ones because we're agents, and one question is when people buy a condo or a townhome and it's a shared roof, but legally can't they put solar on it no matter what the HOA says, right? That's the first one.
You do have to get HOA approval, but you can put it on a shared roof. I've done that before. It's just kind of like, I don't know how they figure the boundary lines, you know, it's like, well, here's my half, that's my half of the roof, and they just like do the best to utilize the roof space. But yeah, you do have to get the HOA permission to do it, to install it.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
the second one was, we help a lot of first-time home buyers. So in San Diego, they're only going to be in a home usually a couple years to try to gain equity, right, and move on. So in that case, like, is it really worth people leasing? Because again, I think a lot of people feel like Claudia, and I do too, of like, man, one more thing to take care of. If they're already stretched for bills and they got their eye on the prize for moving in a few years, would that benefit them to lease, not get those tax benefits?
Yeah, I've seen people literally put solar on their roof and purchase it and get that tax, just so they can get the tax credit, knowing that they're going to sell the house the next month. Because they're like, so let's say you bought a house in January and you're thinking about putting solar on it right now, and you go get a solar loan, boom, you qualify for the $10,000-$20,000 tax credit, and you sell your house in September. It doesn't even matter if you've occupied the house the whole year, you got that tax credit. So when you go do your taxes next year, you get that tax credit, not the new homeowner.
But do they have to pay outright, or can they finance it, but they're just buying the whole thing?
You could, yeah, you're gonna finance it 99% of the time. There's no down payment or anything. The rates are still really good. They're like 3%. They're not like mortgage rates and stuff like that. And you could transfer that loan over to the new buyer. It used to be where like that was one of the big differences between leases and purchasing, was like leases was the only thing that you could transfer. But when it came to purchasing, I don't know if you guys remember how long a lot of you've been licensed, but in the past, remember, if you had a solar equipment purchase and you were transferring, that balance had to be paid off.
Yes.
In order to transfer. Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. So most of the financing companies, the only financing company that I know of that require, and it doesn't require it to be paid off, it just requires it to be at 70% loan to value, is Dividend Financial. But all the other ones that are on the banks with us, they let you transfer it. So you can get the loan, get the tax, be eligible for the tax credit, and sell your house and transfer that loan to the new buyer just as easily as you can transfer the lease.
A 30-year loan?
Say that again?
A 30-year loan?
There are 30, but it's one of those things where it's like the solar bank's got to make their money. So if it's amortized for a longer period, it's going to have a higher rate, and you're going to pay more like finance charges, versus if you go with like a 20 or 25-year loan, it's going to have less finance charges and a better rate.
So it can be anywhere between 20 to 30 years, the term.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like. All right, cool. And then George had a question as well. He said, so do you get the tax credit every year by owning a solar panel?
No, it's just that one time. That's a good question. It's just that one time when you purchase it. So whatever the total project cost is that you got it for, it should be 30% of that amount. So if your solar panels were $36,500, because that's really, I mean, to my knowledge, that's, and I self prepare my own taxes, but when I've done that, it just simply asks you in that section, that form, I can't think of that, like form 8459 or whatever. It just asks you what was the total project cost, and you just put that in there, and then you get it. And you can't get it every time you add, because I did a purchase originally, and then I got the tax credit, but then I had to add panels, and the panels that I added, I just did a lease. So on my personal residence, I have both. I have a purchase. I have like 15 panels that are a purchase, and I have like another 13 panels that are in the form of a lease. But if I got those other 13 panels also in a purchase, right, a second purchase, I wouldn't be eligible for an additional tax credit, because the property already has panels that I already got a tax credit for. So, yeah.
All right, cool.
Great information. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just threw it in the chat, an email. So to get registered for our monthly newsletter, to stay in the know with the real estate market and upcoming workshops, go ahead and send us an email to offers@lepetendwell.com so we can get you registered. It's not spam, it's once a month, so you'll be okay. And the second thing to that, I also threw in there the links so you guys can tell us a little bit about what you learned today. Give us a review. Tell us how you feel about today's workshop. Tell us what we could have done a little bit better, or what you really enjoyed over here on this workshop. We do these so that way we can get good information out to you guys. So the more we hear from you, the better content we can put out for everybody else. And of course, got the social media handles on there if you want to keep in touch with the Lepe Tendwell Properties team over here. But Seth, thank you so much for your time tonight. It was very valuable. You came in with a lot of great insight, and I'm really excited to start doing some deals together, man. Claudia, thank you again for your time as well. And thank you to the audience for being here on a Tuesday night, late at night, and asking these great questions. I'll let everybody enjoy the rest of their evening. And I'll see you on the next workshop.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Guys.
Bye.